Hello and welcome to Trustable Path YouTube channel. If you want to watch our newest videos, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell button. And if you want to support us, kindly please like and share our videos. According to the opinion of the majority of scholars, masturbation is prohibited and it is impermissible to practice it, except when there is a necessity through which a Muslim may encounter physical or religious harm. This includes the physician's advice to practice masturbation for a certain time.
First of all, masturbation is haram in the religion of Islam for both men and women. There are some, and you'll find some today, are bringing this research that there is no evidence that masturbation for females is haram. Because all the hadiths that we have, they are talking about males engaging in this act. How do we respond to that? Yes, those hadiths from the Ahlul Bayt that do address males engaging in that behavior do mention males. They don't mention the females. But the verse in the Holy Quran, such as in Surah Al-Mu'minun and in other verses, are very clear that any type of sexual activity outside of marriage and the lawful partner is haram. This is a general verse that applies to this case. So for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. Allah describes the believers. One of the descriptions of the believers is what? They guard their private parts. Okay, there's an exception. إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ. Except on their lawful partners. If it's with their lawful partners, that's fine. That's not a violation. فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى. Look at this verse very clearly. فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ. If someone pursues anything beyond that, beyond what? Beyond those two. أَزْوَاجُهُمْ, their spouses, their wives, أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ, or they had lawful slaves. Anything outside of these two, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْعَادُونَ. The Quran says they're transgressors. They're violating the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Most scholars historically have considered masturbation to fall under this category. It's exceeding and trespassing that line. Because the Quran limits sexual activity to only these two. Anything outside of that would be considered a violation of Islamic law. So that in itself is proof. So today what you see, some people are bringing research. No, there's no evidence for that. There's no hadith for that. No. We have a verse in the Holy Quran that's very clear. First of all, azwajihim in Arabic is neutral. It applies to the husband and the wife. Argument here, the verse says everything is haram except with a spouse, applies to men and women, or your slave. Okay, that applies to men only. If you pursue anything more than these two, anything, a third category is haram. Okay, isn't masturbation a third category? So then the Quran says, Humul Adun. That's a violation of the law of Allah. Even if that second one that the verse mentions, Malakat Aymanuhum, let's say that applies to men only. Fine. There's a category that's only applicable to men. But the verse is saying anything more than these two is outlawed. So this is a clear verse, according to mainstream scholars, that outlaws masturbation, even for females. So we don't need a specific hadith about this, because that's the argument. We search the hadith, we don't find anything specific in the hadiths that addresses females, then it's halal. There's no such argument, because the Holy Quran clearly outlaws this. فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ. Anything beyond what's mentioned. And what's mentioned in the verse? Spouse or slave. Anything outside of that, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْعَادُونَ. And the verse, the tone of it is very general. There are even some scholars, they said, no, the verse is talking about adultery. It's a given that it's talking about adultery, not other types of behavior. But most scholars have said, no, why limit it to adultery? The Quran is talking about حفظ الفرج, guarding protecting the private part. That's general, whether there's another person involved or not. So this is a scholarly discussion that scholars do have, but you will find some who are trying to make the case that no, the Quran does not make a reference to that. And this is only limited to, let's say, fornication or adultery. That's فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ. But most scholars consider it to be a very general verse. What is your understanding of the verse? Do you see it limited just to any acts with someone else, or no, it's general? حفظ الفرج, protecting the chastity of the private part, is general. It can include any type of sexual activity. Any type of sexual activity, whether with a human being or someone with himself or with an animal. All of that is outlawed by the verse. We don't need any hadith for that. You don't need a specific hadith for that. And if we have specific hadiths, they're just confirming the verse. Or no, you find that you need elaboration on that. The verse is not clear. The verse is only stating that, let's say, fornication, adultery is haram. It's not talking about other categories. And if you give this phrase to the average person in public, حفظ الفرج فروجهم حافظون, they will understand it in a general context. Let me give you this example. Let's say the master issued this command. He tells his subjects, احفظ فرجك, guard your private parts, protect your private parts. That's all that was said, and there was no clarification on what that meant. Now, let's say one of those subjects engaged in masturbation. Did they violate that command or no? What do you say? If you see it clearly as a violation of that command, that means it includes it. It's general enough to include it. Now, there's a difference between males and females. The difference is the following. Obviously, the istimna, the masturbation that does invalidate the fast, if there's a discharge of semen, then that would invalidate the fast according to the hadiths. With females, scholars have multiple opinions. But the mainstream opinion of Maraja today is if that it leads to excessive discharge, then that in itself will invalidate the fast, and that would require the ghusl. So this is the mainstream opinion of the Maraja today.